As leaders, there are those times when we are fully aware of our moments of impact. And the only reason that we're aware of them is because most times we're just not that impactful. In fact, for most of the days that we live, right, we're not leading and initiating change, but rather we're just kind of managing what is already happening. And management does have a valuable place in this ecosystem of maintaining what we've impacted or what others have impacted. But let's be honest, our ability to impact, our ability to create radical change pales in comparison to the opportunities that present themselves in front of us every single day. And I'm not just talking about our businesses, but even more valuably in our marriages, our parenting, just in general in people's lives, right? And we all desire excellence in what we do. And so what do we do then? We look to emulate, right? We attach ourselves to mentors. We read their books. We buy their courses. We watch their keynotes. And, we invest in these things because we feel like we need to emulate their behavior, right? If we can just kind of copy what they're doing, maybe we can be successful too. But if you think about it, about the times where you showed up, where you stepped in, right? Where you made impact, you didn't copy anyone. You didn't have time to. You drew upon your own fundamental values and capabilities, and you entered into that moment of impact because that is actually who you are. It's just not that part of you that you choose to exhibit most of the time. And today on the podcast, I want to talk to you about increasing those moments of power, of influence, of radical change. And to get there, we're going to have to reconstruct our moments of impact, right? And understand what those are made of, right? What is it that kind of changes our psyche, elevates our skill, and projects our power in a way that actually changes things? Whether it be inspiring a person or finding a solution to a problem or scaling, a process, or just helping someone in need that changes their life. My name is Sasha, and this is Entrepreneur Insight. When we initiate a moment of impact, what are we doing? We're transcending our normal state of being. It's the way we lead when we have no other option. When you conceptually find yourself in a room with no windows, when we're forced to choose between two outcomes, step up or go home. Can you remember a time when you were pushed in a corner? Right? What happened? Your instincts took over, your skill set, your knowledge, your experience, right? All kind of came together in this cosmic, serendipitous instant to make impact. In other words, to change something is to redirect the current of life, whether in your own life or someone else's life, or in a situation. And when we're not impacting, what are we doing? We're managing, which is where we live 95% of the time. And to be a manager is to maintain what is already in motion, which is a healthy and even necessary state of being. In the management state, we stay within our comfort zones. And it's the external factors that direct our behaviors and decisions. And so while we can settle on the fact that the majority of our state will be in a management context, the goal of growth, right? The objective of our potential must be to move the needle down on the 95%. as to increase the impact of our lives up to a greater measure. And to get there, we must first deconstruct what happened when we moved from a management state to the impactful state. Like, what happened? Whether it was a crisis that kind of forced us out of our seat, or this fiery ambition and this result that we decided we couldn't live without. The dimensions that drive that shift are the same, right? And there's 4 of them. And so the first shift that is needed as we transcend from management to impact is we need to move from being comfort-driven to purpose-driven. The biggest enemy to the impactful leader is comfort. And the reason is that comfort leads to a lack of vitality and protrusive energy. We don't find meaning in comfort. We find it in discipline, effort, and fight. In his book, The Path of Least Resistance, Robert Fritz explains how asking a single question can move us from the reactive state of management to the impactful state of leadership. The question is this: what result do I want to create? Arriving at a meaningful answer to this question actually pushes us off comfort's path of least resistance. It leads us from maintenance to purpose finding. So again, the first shift to impact is we have to move from comfort to purpose. The second shift, we have to transcend or elevate to is that which is from being extrinsically motivated to being more intrinsically motivated. What does that mean? That means we stop complying with others in fear of not meeting their expectations, right? We go from a posture of conformance to a position of disruption. To become more intrinsically motivated is to clarify our core values and purposefully exercise our integrity, which leads to confidence and authority. This is really important. There is nothing more powerful or impactful than keeping the promise you make to yourself. Making a bold promise and keeping it. By doing that, we become innately impactful. It becomes part of our identity, part of who we are on a more consistent basis. To be impactful, you need resistance. And unfortunately, part of that resistance will include those who may not agree with you. And it will be our willing to initiate such a conflict that our values find their power of impact. And so the third shift to becoming a more impactful leader is we become less focused on self-benefit and more focused on the benefit of others, right? We live for the benefit of another. And if you think about the greatest impact on humanity, the leaders of those movements were living for something bigger than themselves. We have to remember that selfishness is a survival mentality, right? It seeks to protect our well-being first before we consider others. And when we are constantly pursuing our own interests in the relationships that we have, we will no doubt lose trust in those relationships. And although one may know how to, always get what they want, you will never derive energy or value from those relationships. And over time, you will lose them. But when you live for the benefit of another, people notice. And as a leader, you gain respect and trust, both of which you need to be impactful. So, moving on, the fourth paradigm The fourth paradigm shift we need to move from management to impact is we transition from being a know-it-all to becoming eager to learn. What do I mean? When we are open to others' ways of doing things, right? That's why trying to find the path of least resistance is not always a benefit, right? Change is change for a reason. And so we're talking about, change, which is a redirection of force, right? A redirection of momentum and current. And we've all heard the saying, we cannot do the same thing and expect different results. And so we have to remember that our survival mechanism actually will keep us safe and from risk, right? To create impact at its essence is to risk. And so we must be adaptive, open to suggestion, right? Open to the concepts that differ from ours, and open to new ways of doing things. So in closing, these four qualities, right? Being purpose-driven, intrinsically motivated, living for the benefit of another, and becoming eager to learn are the creative and attractive attributes of an impactful leader. No human can be impactful 100% of the time. We know that. But the more you proactively and intentionally seek to impact, the easier it is to enter into that position and state of being. As leaders, committing consciously and disciplining ourselves to growing in these areas of our own lives will by default position us to impact the lives of those that God has put in our life for such a time as now. Wishing you all a wonderful week. Bye for now.